The following is a presentation of the Force Center podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the Force Center podcast feed, and this particular episode is the Clone Wars Report.
Dum dum.
So very excited to see what noise Ken would make this time. And was that some CSI drums?
I think it was as best as I can do. I don't have the skills to do them in 100% accuracy, but
CSI, Law and Order, some procedural drums, right?
Indeed.
We almost cut to the commercial right here at the beginning of our podcast. Well, you can tell that there are expansive influences in Star Wars by the noises that Ken makes at the beginning. We are in a crime procedural ? Other influences going on is we are getting into a very big, very important arc in the Clone Wars, and I would argue the general saga of the Jedi. Anyway, I'm Joseph Scrimshaw. The person who is making those wonderful noises is Ken Knapsack. Ken, are you ready to dive into what I'm calling Ahsoka's big choice?
Absolutely. Been waiting for this one. And it's so funny. Season 5 has been a lot of us saying, I've been waiting to get into these episodes. And sometimes that's the Meber Gascon of it all. And other times it's this big, giant arc, which is way deeper than I remember, which is saying something because it's already pretty deep.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think all of season 5 is great, and there's definitely some explorations that aren't about decay and collapse in the end, but you can just really get this sense as you get into it of like, okay, we're wrapping this up. Things gotta happen. Happen. So there's a lot of happening in season 5. The arc that we're talking about in particular is the last 4 episodes of season 5. So we're talking season 5, episode 17, Sabotage, written by Charles Murray and directed by Brian Kalin O'Connell. Season 5, episode 18, The Jedi Who Knew Too Much, written by Charles Murray and directed by Danny Keller. Season 5, episode 19, To Catch a Jedi, written by Charles Murray and directed by Kyle Dunleavy. And season 5, episode 20, The Wrong Jedi, written by Charles Murray and directed by Dave Filoni. This was really fun to watch, Ken. As I was watching them and writing down the notes, I was like, okay, this is following the pattern of season 5 of large arcs with the same writer and different directors. And then I'm sure I knew at some point that The Wrong Jedi was directed by Filoni, and it makes sense. But there were just some shots, and I was like, getting to know Filoni as a director, like, oh, right. This one is directed by Dave Filoni.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, did you remember that going in? Did you appreciate the Filoni direction?
I was waiting for it, if that makes sense. I was just like, which one did he do? Did he do all of them? Yeah, but he's good to pass. He has to pass that director ball around Clone Wars. He's probably got so much on his plate. But yes, I mean, come on, it's Ahsoka. You know, as he should be protective of Ahsoka. Want to do what he needs to do, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And even though it was obviously written by Charles Murray, there is that sort of co-authorship, when you're dealing with directors, and it's some great stuff for Filoni's direction that isn't just direction and writing. It isn't just about like, shots or angles or whatever, although those are there, but there's this real feeling of this dance between specificity and ambiguity of like, he knows right when he's going for a moment that's going to land like a boom, like a dun-dun, like the drums you made. And other times where there's lots of room to interpret, which I think is just fun to think about as we're going to go into some more Ahsoka storytelling in live action. Any other thoughts on writers, directors before we jump into the summary?
I do want to highlight Charles Murray, who just killed it with these episodes. And it's one of those names you don't hear a lot associated with Star Wars. He would go on to do some work with Sons of Anarchy, a show I know a lot of people love. I appreciate it. Didn't watch it all as a lot of other people did, but it just I love celebrating this new name. And I just was blown away by so many little things in these episodes when you start to break them down. So, writer, you're a big writer, Joseph. I occasionally put a pen down to paper. It's a tip of the cap to Charles Murray.
I think that's great that you highlighted him. I think there's a ton that is great in these episodes structurally and just line by line and just tone. Obviously that goes to direction too, but just even on the page, it was there were some things that were silly adjacent, but this was very focused on the business at hand. So great job by Charles Murray. With that, let's dive into the summary, which again is not short. Here we go. business on Cato Nemodia. Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker and his Padawan Ahsoka Tano lead a daring attack against Separatist forces, but Anakin's starfighter is overrun by buzz droids and he's knocked unconscious. Ahsoka proves her growth, strength, and bond with her Jedi Master when she saves him from certain doom. Before our heroes can rejoin the fight, they're called back to the Jedi Temple. A hangar in the temple has been bombed, killing many clones, Jedi, and civilian maintenance workers. The Council tasks Anakin and Ahsoka to investigate, as they were not at the temple during the incident. They are some of the only Jedi above suspicion. Under this cloud of mistrust, Anakin and Ahsoka team with the detective droid, Russo ISC, crime scene analyzer for the Jedi. They quickly discover one worker, Jakar Bomani, is missing and suspect that he is the bomber, but when they find only his hand crawling with explosive nanodroids, they realize he was the bomb. He was fed the nanobots by his wife, Letta Termond, who attempts and fails to evade capture. It appears as though this clears Jedi from any involvement, but Yoda and Mace Windu suspect Letta's motivation stems from the growing disapproval of the Jedi and their involvement in the Clone War. After a brief funeral for the fallen Jedi, our heroes are shocked to discover Admiral Wilhoff Tarkin has moved Letta Termond from Jedi holding to a Republic prison. As clones and civilians were killed, Tarkin insists this is not an internal Jedi matter. Ahsoka bonds with her old friend and fellow Padawan Barriss Offee. They reflect on the fear they felt during the Second Battle of Geonosis and the struggle to move past their emotions to see things clearly. Before they can conclude their conversation, Ahsoka is called away. Letta has requested to see her. Ahsoka meets with the criminal in her cell where Letta admits she believes the Jedi have become warmongers, but she is not the true mastermind. Before she can reveal the fearsome foe behind this plot, she is force-choked by an unseen hand. Ahsoka is imprisoned for the crime. Anakin attempts to see her, but is blocked by the Coruscant guard. Meanwhile, a keycard is left outside Ahsoka's room. She escapes only to discover wounded and dead clones. The clones blame Ahsoka and give chase. Anakin intervenes, attempting to bring Ahsoka in peacefully to explain herself. He catches up with his Padawan in a sewer pipe. He begs her to come with him, but Ahsoka is convinced, unlike Anakin, that the other Jedi will not believe her innocence. She is determined to clear her name herself, so she leaps from the pipe into the depths of Coruscant. On the run, Ahsoka contacts her friend Barriss, who promises to dig for information. Ahsoka is pursued by the lower-level Coruscant security forces and eventually captured by an old enemy, Asajj Ventress. In her new life as a bounty hunter, Asajj is excited to collect the reward, but Ahsoka argues that the two share common ground. Both have been rejected by their orders. Ahsoka offers to secure a pardon for Asajj's crimes. Asajj agrees, and Ahsoka once again contacts Barriss, who instructs Ahsoka to head for a warehouse Letta visited when securing the nanodroids. Pursued by clones, Anakin, and Plo Koon, Ahsoka makes it to the warehouse, parting ways with Ventress, but not before Anakin spots the two old rivals together. Asajj is jumped by a mysterious figure who steals her lightsabers and helmet. Masquerading as Asajj, the mystery figure brutally attacks Ahsoka in the warehouse, leaving her bruised and confused in front of a massive and incriminating pile of nanodroids. Ahsoka is caught by the clones and taken into custody. Tarkin demands that Ahsoka must be tried by the Republic, but to make that possible, the Council must expel her from the Jedi Order. Though the vote is not unanimous, the Council believes there is too much evidence to ignore. Ahsoka's Padawan braid is removed. She is a Jedi no more. Valiant Republic Senator Padme Amidala volunteers to defend Ahsoka in her trial. The prosecutor, Tarkin, pushes for the death penalty. Determined to prove his friend's innocence, Anakin stalks and chokes Asajj. The beleaguered bounty hunter spits the truth. She did not frame Ahsoka, and whoever did took Asajj's lightsabers. Asajj remembers the only person Ahsoka talked to, Barriss. Anakin rushes to the Jedi Temple and confronts Barriss, swinging at her with her own blade, forcing Barriss to defend herself with Asajj's stolen crimson blades. Anakin and Barriss battle down the halls and onto the terrace of the temple, startling Tera Sinube and some younglings who recently built their lightsabers. With furious power, Anakin subdues Barriss, smashing her into the Uneti tree. Just as Ahsoka's verdict is about to be read, Anakin bursts into the court. Barriss Offee admits her crime and her motivation. The attack on the temple was her attack on what the Jedi have become. Violent soldiers fighting an unwitting war for the dark side. Ahsoka is finally freed. The Council apologizes, and Mace Windu declares this to be her Jedi trial. But when Anakin attempts to return her Padawan braid, Ahsoka refuses. Following her out of the temple, Anakin begs her to reconsider, reminding her he never lost faith in her. Ahsoka is thankful but steadfast. She can't trust the Council or herself and needs to find her own path forward. Anakin says he understands the desire to walk away from the Order. Ahsoka says, I know, and walks away from the temple into the unknown. For now. So there we go. That's our summary of the few things that happened in this arc.
Great stuff. Yeah, Terrace Nube is still one of my favorite parts of this. And yeah, I'm laughing, but yeah, great summary as always. But like, I'm laughing at the hubris on the Jedi at the end of this. Can't wait to discuss that.
Yeah, the May says, it turns out it was a trial. Yeah, is pretty great on multiple levels. And yes, I was delighted. I forgot how much Terra Snube was in this in the background.
Yeah.
I forgot that he ignited the old saber cane, which always makes me happy.
Yes, indeed.
So I'm sensing that you enjoy this arc, Ken, that you're not like, this is one of the poor ones. But so what was your overall reaction? Love it, like it, struggle with it? Sometimes we talk about our past relationships. Where do you go?
Yeah, I loved it. Always have loved it. Always will. In fact, we'll probably appreciate it even more, especially when you get to revisit it. With the Trace Rafa stuff so strongly connected to it. And I was just looking at what Charles Murray wrote those episodes too. He's got his hands on Star Wars, my friends. It was great to revisit it. I mentioned up top, this is clearly deep. We all remember the Ahsoka leaving the Order. It's powerful. It's one of the best moments in Star Wars, as heartbreaking as it is. But when you really go to revisit this arc, that's just the topic sentence, right? Oh yeah, that's right. The Ahsoka leaves stuff. There's so much going on there, and I kind of see these 4 episodes as tracking it's not just the maturation of Ahsoka, which is definitely there, and you even said it in your summary of just she's proven her powers and who she is and her connections, and it's real signpost of growth. But it's the cost of the wars rising, and it's kind of the maturation of the show itself, because I kind of see the first episode as it's kind of got a traditional Star Wars fighting and banter, which is very intentional, and it's got the Criminal Minds CSI parody stuff, not parody, but taken influence from it. Even this droid is built off of it's modeled after David Caruso, CSI Miami.
Yeah, sunglasses and everything.
Yeah, the glasses coming up and down. And so it goes from that and then just gets darker and bigger, and the scope of these episodes is just large scale, and that's the show itself. So I just kind of see it's a great Clone Wars arc for all those reasons.
Oh yeah, no, I love what you're saying, and I love how much you're pointing out the beginning. I think there's always been this tension in Star Wars, but in the Clone Wars in particular, of sometimes the action is fun, thrilling. Like, look, it's spaceships and robots and laser swords, and it is fun and thrilling, and it's communicated that way. And then sometimes it's like, but here is the dark truth of violence and war, and I love that this arc starts by, hey, it looks like it's fun. Banter and action. And then right away it gets darker. Like, oh, Anakin's really in trouble.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka's powerful enough to save him. And now let's look what's truly going on underneath. Like, I think what I love about this arc is all of the, incredibly important stuff about the Jedi Order and the Republic and Ahsoka that we're going to dive deep into. But it is shadowy and sad. It has so many film noir vibes and themes from nihilism, selfishness, multiple views of like actually well-developed complex versions of stereotypical femme fatales, lightning storms, but all of it has this sense of we are crawling into what is underneath. I think it's significant that it's an homage. Star Wars loves homages. It's significant to me that all of the titles are Hitchcock films or riffs on them, right? With the replacing Jedi with other nouns. And sometimes that stuff is just kind of like a fun nod, but I feel like a lot of what Hitchcock is about, many of his films, especially some of his more famous ones, is the same as what's going on in this arc of it is dealing in the subterranean, like what is underneath literally and what is underneath emotionally. North by Northwest is not one of the titles that's checked, but because that would have been a weird one to try to work in.
Jedi by Jedi West.
Jedi by Jedi West. Yeah. But I think it's got that theme of questioning your identity. What propels that movie is, a case of mistaken identity that is so thorough that it starts to make you question reality, right? And I feel like that is not Ahsoka isn't questioning her identity. She isn't getting quite to that level of, did I do this? But that's on the table because of the amount of just subterranean, what is underneath, even starting with the image of the buzz droids being underneath Anakin's ship. And there's that moment where Mace Windu he's saying a factual thing, and I don't think it's necessarily meant to be a thematic statement, but it hit me that way, where they're talking about pursuing Ahsoka, and Mace Windu says, now she's in the lower depths. And like, I know you literally mean the planet, but like, I feel like to me, that's like one of the statements of what this arc is. Now she's in the lower depths, and we all are.
It's so funny. You wrote, there was another Mace quote that was one of those, means a lot, whether you meant to say that or not. When he says, so far out of our way, just, we can't understand it. Yeah.
No, just that. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the writing is really sharp, because just that, that little exchange too of like, there's all these neutral planets we have to go around because nobody wants this war. Yeah. So, any other kind of big picture reactions to the arc?
No. I mean, very well said there, sir. Just I love tracking. I wrote down this is the most insightful note I've ever written down, Joseph. Important arc. Wrote that down.
Very important arc.
Very important.
Yeah. I think for me, another thing that I love about this arc is just that we get to spend a lot of time in the Jedi Temple and just kind of Jedi structure, just kind of like how they conduct things on a day-to-day level, which I always love. So thrilled by that. The other thing I wanted to, I'm sure we'll dive in deeper, but I wanted to talk about right at the beginning. I feel like one of the things with this arc is that fans have different interpretations, different memories of it. And obviously we're always open to different interpretations, and we're discussing ours. But rewatching this arc for me really reinforced an opinion that this story is not that Ahsoka stopped being a Jedi. Right. This story is that the Jedi lost their way, and Ahsoka at the end is questioning, maybe the Jedi have lost their way. Maybe I shouldn't be in lockstep with them. Maybe I should take a step back to look at things myself. This is not, in my opinion, her going, the Jedi are always wrong. They've been wrong. I'm not a Jedi. Boo to Jedi. This feels to me like her saying, like she said at one point in the arc, that the Jedi values are sacred to me. And I feel like what her leaving is not rejecting everything she's ever believed in. It's needing to find her own path back to being a Jedi. And part of the reason I bring that up is there's been so much conversation around that line in Rebels where she says, I am no Jedi. And then people questioning the Mandalorian episode that's titled The Jedi, where Ahsoka, does seem to have taken up the mantle. And so I think there can be a lot of opinions about, is Ahsoka a Jedi or isn't she? And to me, this arc is about, yes, she absolutely is. She does a very Jedi thing of, the Jedi organization is losing the path. Maybe I am. I'm going to step away, and I'm going to redefine what a Jedi is to me.
Yeah. 100%. I can't wait to dive in a little bit more to that. I think it's so easy to dump this into the Jedi are completely wrong bucket. And that happens more and more. But which is okay. I think these episodes, like they ask some questions. We love when Clone Wars and Star Wars ask questions, and the answers are a little open. That's totally great, and I think there's a lot to that. But yes, justice. It's not just about justice for the Jedi. It's just like actually paying attention to what's there. If that sounds a little brash and arrogant, I apologize. But just like, no, look at what actually is going on and what actually is being said.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. So let's dive into the morals of the episode. 4 episodes, 4 morals. They are, sometimes even the smallest doubt can shake the greatest belief. Courage begins by trusting oneself. Never become desperate enough to trust the untrustworthy, and never give up hope no matter how dark things seem. None of these strike me as really great baseball ones, but your baseball coaching often comes up. So please tell me if I'm wrong.
No. You got absolutely. Sometimes even the smallest dog can shake the greatest belief.
Fair enough. That's
yeah. You get in that batter's box. You know that you've done the work to take the swing you need to take. Oh, there you go. But I really love the courage begins by trusting oneself. That just spoke to me outside of Star Wars of just, when you want to do something and you're not sure, you want to try something in your career, and it's about going, all right, I know I can do this, or I know I can try, and I know I can survive any failure of that attempt too. And that's just on a small, micro level of what courage can be on a daily basis. But I love that one. That's a big Star Wars one too, I think. But and then I got to tell you, the never become desperate enough to trust the untrustworthy. That one popped up, and I knew it was the Ventress episode, right? And I got really offended. It's like no. Ventress isn't untrustworthy. And I realized, probably more Barriss.
Yep.
Probably more Barriss. Look at me. Let's actually pay attention. So yeah, I love that one too.
I like that one because it mirrors some of the things happening in the episode. It makes you question who you should trust. Like, oh, who are they talking about? Like, oh, no. Yeah. This is about Barriss. I like that one a lot. And that also seems like that one that I understand people in the industry writing that one of never become desperate enough to trust the untrustworthy. Use your instincts. To know who to trust. And then never give up hope no matter how dark things seem. That's a pretty classic Star Wars one.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Any other thoughts on the morals before we dive into the big ideas?
No, let's dive in. A lot to get to.
All right, let's talk themes. What big ideas are at stake in these episodes? I'm very curious to see how you process this. For me, I think it going through it all, it's very much about trust and fear. But how do you combine those things? How do you process those things? Yeah. How did you kind of make it make sense to you, the themes?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh wow, somebody's like I broke some of them down by episodes, but then overall, I looked at. There's this theme of finding yourself, which is you could just see on the surface of Ahsoka. You talked about the identity thing, and it's not so much a crisis, but finding who you are, and that becomes valuable. I put this note of when you're rattled by the systems in place to protect you, and there's examples given even as episodes of Dooku and Krell. We see Barriss. We didn't throw Saw Gerrera in there eventually, where it's okay to question these things, but I think you really have to know who you are. And this is Ahsoka finding that out. And that comes a lot of, you talk about fear and trust. That means there's leaps of faith. There's literal leaps of faith in this episode with Ahsoka. Anakin needs to kind of take a leap of faith to believe Ahsoka. And the Jedi, when given the opportunity to take a leap of faith, which, by the way, Obi-Wan says we should all maybe support Ahsoka here. Let's stand with her. They don't take that leap as a group. And that comes down to choices. Choices being so big in Star Wars. You and I love talking about Star Wars, destiny, and the path that leads you to, and these choices. And man, how do you make a choice out of trust with the spirit of hope to build, not destroyed? Or do you make a choice out of fear, even though your choices might come from a very realistic point? Barriss Offie absolutely has valid points. We know this. We're going to dive into it. She has real issues, and she chooses to react without hope. And I want to pause here and make sure I'm saying Star Wars. I don't think Star Wars ever intends to intentionally stand on the side and tell you they have that Star Wars has the moral high ground, right? That like Barriss, bad choice. It's supposed to be difficult, and it's not. If there's anything in your life where you're like, I might have made a similar choice to Barriss. Star Wars isn't telling you that's wrong. It's just saying, here's what some of that fear to anger to hate to suffering thing it could be, right? This is the direction it can go. So find out who you really are through all of this is where I started. That's just the start, I guess.
Yeah, no, there's so much to discuss. And I think that's a really great start. And I really started in a similar place. I mean, with Barriss being right. About what's happening behind the scenes, but being wrong. I'll be that bold to say, bombing the temple and murdering people to make an ambiguous point toward to the general public is wrong. So if you're starting from this point of people can be even correct about analyzing a problem so much of what the morality of Star Wars is, I think, is about asking people to really question the actions that you take that affect other people. And I think that idea of starting from like, well, a lot of people can be in the wrong. There can be a lot of problems, but we have choice as individuals, how we respond to the events. And I think for me, the big picture idea is trust versus fear. We talk a lot about hope versus fear. But I think trust, the way it's described in this arc, is about trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, trusting yourself to question. I think that's the big thing that's missing from everybody who makes a mistake. Is because they don't slow down to question. And the reason they don't slow down to question is fear. I think Russo ISC has this great thematic statement where he says, fear makes even the most trusting individual irrational.
Right.
And I think that's so important when you're talking about fear in Star Wars, because there's rational concern, right? There's the I would be concerned if I were in a cage with a bear. That's rational concern, right?
Right.
Fear would be, maybe I shouldn't leave my house because there might be a bear, right? And it's that fear of what might happen, fear of what could be. Oh no, the worst thing I can imagine might be right around the corner. And if you live in that and sit in that, it erodes so much, including your ability to question, your ability to trust. And the way I broke it down is I feel like that's what's happening to the Jedi Council, to Ahsoka, to Barriss, to all of these kind of featured characters, is fear is eating their ability to trust and question.
And look, this is so much Ahsoka's arc. We will not move to push her off that top of the line billing there. But Anakin, if he had learned any of this, and been able to question and change and have the trust to take his own bigger leaps of faith, I don't think he would have acted out of fear, and the galaxy's in a different spot.
This is one of the greatest episodes for what I was thinking of, the Anakin irony quote collection, right? Which is totally on purpose, I think. I wanted to dive into the Jedi Council a little bit because I think Ahsoka is the main character, but I honestly think the other main character is the Council. Because, and I think one of the reasons this arc is important is we talk a lot about how fear, Palpatine manipulates characters into making decisions out of fear, and it breaks them. Right? That's Anakin is afraid to lose Padme. What will happen to him if he loses Padme? What will happen to him if he doesn't have enough power? He gets the entire Republic to be afraid of the scary other, the Separatists. What will happen if they don't give all their power to Palpatine? What will happen if they don't raise an army? And I think that same fear, kind of a fear-based manipulation, happens to the Jedi Council, and I think we see it in this episode. We see all the things they fear, right? They're starting to fear their own. Mace even says, we can't trust anyone who's here, even a Jedi. They have started to lose some of their own, as Anakin points out, of Dooku and Pong Krell. And that is really making them start to kind of have this suspicion of, like, behind every Jedi might be a traitor. Right. They're afraid of the people turning against them. Mace says public opinion is swaying against the Jedi. The war is becoming less and less popular. Every day it persists. So they're afraid of kind of losing their stature or what the people think of them. I think a big practical one is they are afraid of being seen as too challenging toward the Senate. Their worst decision in this episode, in my opinion, to expel Ahsoka without questioning the evidence. Mace has this quote when Obi-Wan's like, we can't expel her from the order. And Mace says, I understand your sentiment, Obi-Wan, but if the council does as you suggest, it could be seen as an act of aggression against the Senate. And I think that is one of the big maneuvers that Palpatine does, that you can track through the actual films, and it pops up in the Clone Wars, of the Jedi have this, to me, noble pursuit of, like, we don't want to grab for power. We want to use the power that we have to help people. And Palpatine knows that he can exploit that of like, I can push them really far and have the Senate do things they really disagree with and demand things they really don't want. And it will tie them up in knots because they don't want to go against the Senate because that will be seen as or perceived as power grabbing. And that's how he stops them from investigating him more closely than they should have, throughout. And it's happening here again. He's getting them to do things that they do not believe in for fear of not trusting themselves, right? Of not trusting that they're on the right path, of like, we could be perceived by others outside of ourselves as power grabbing.
Yeah, I consider it. I'm glad you brought up the Mace moment. It really jumped out to me as just kind of, and this goes into our discussion of the bigger themes a little bit at times, the larger Star Wars story, but like what George's whole point was. And it wasn't, it's a small moment of fear, right?
Yeah.
And you said it yourself, they're about to, they don't know it yet. They're about to begin the biggest investigation of all time. Who is the Sith Lord behind all this?
Yeah.
And here's a template. And that line that Tarkin has, he kind of, in defending Palpatine, he's like, Palpatine doesn't do anything without a sense of strategy, right? I didn't write that one down, but just like more than even Tarkin knows. And there's a great discussion on how much does Tarkin know. And then I think we all can argue. I don't know what Tarkin cares. He's here for his own power, his own growth, and Palpatine serves that, and he's just going to fall in line. He just is happy to see the Jedi get their place. Tarkin, I love, in the third episode, Tarkin just doesn't give a damn about the Jedi's opinions. And I'm not rooting for Tarkin here, but I'm just saying, like, it's an interesting telling thing that comes out of this. That's why the Jedi are walking on eggshells, walking on broken glass here, like a good Annie Lennox song, and that is these small bits of fear adding up to these bigger decisions, and it's dangerous.
Yeah, and to me, it is really powerful because it's that a loss of faith in yourself and in your own beliefs, right? Of being able to say, well, we think that is wrong, but I'm trying not to go into real world politics stuff too, right? But it is unlock it from any specific issue, but it is that idea of, I know what I am trying to pursue is correct, or I know what is being asked of me is not okay. But I'm not worried about the actual thing. I'm worried about what other people will say, right? I'm worried about the people will play the game that is, we'll make it. Yeah. Anyway, I'm trying not to talk about real world stuff, and I'm failing, so I'm going to move on.
To pick up like from the Tarkin side of it too, and just what you go. I really love, what are the great conflicts in writing? Man versus self, man versus nature. There's also this one, the Republic versus the Council. Is this big kind of conflict that's happening, and Tarkin has that. He throws it back in their face, right? You say you're peacekeepers, not soldiers, which is about the rise of Tarkin and his quest for power. And Palpatine is just replacing Jedi in the command structure, left to right. The industrial military complex of the Empire is on full display here. They've built facilities. It's starting to look more like Revenge of the Sith. And the Jedi, because they can't find their own place in that, like, hey, well, maybe we shouldn't have been there anyway. We don't want to, but now we're losing power, but we can't say that we're losing. That's not what we are. We don't want to, we're not afraid of it. And it's just all clouded. And even Yoda's starting to say that perceptions are clouded right now about everything. About everything. And I think that is the Phantom Menace of it all, which is what Palpatine is so damn good at. And that's kind of what's going on here.
Yeah. And I love that we are reminded of his larger campaign in that great little speech he gives in the court, right? That he is, it reminds us what's at stake in this whole story, that he's using fear, the fear that he's created about the Separatists to sway the court, the people, the Jedi away from trusting themselves, away from questioning. His quote is, "And yet think of all the times we've been fooled by the Separatists and how they have infiltrated the Republic, and ask yourself, is this yet another Separatist scheme? Another way to rip the Jedi and subsequently all of us apart?" That's such a great portrait of, he has them chasing shadows. It is the classic. He has everybody, the Jedi, the Republic, giving up their principles because they're afraid of the scary other. What might that bad other do, and getting you to do things that you would not otherwise do in the name of fear.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I want to look at this trust versus fear from some other perspectives. Do you want to talk a little bit about Ahsoka herself?
Yeah, I think we could do that. There's the ideas of these big leaps of faith, but beneath that is knowledge versus wisdom, revenge versus justice, and how Ahsoka dances so close to the line. And then Anakin just always wanted to he smashes through that line of right revenge versus justice. And how she initially can't clearly see things, I think, because she wants to get revenge, even when she thinks Anakin left a key card, as a key card there. Oh, yeah, my master did this. She can't see she's falling further than the trap. So all this, as her footing becomes shaky at the beginning and all through this, that's why I think it's so important that she finds it to your bigger point there, but of just identity and finding yourself is where she's heading. And I just I kind of love analyzing how it's fallen beneath her at first.
Yeah, no, I think she's got a really interesting path, because I think that's one of the other things that was really fun for me to rewatch in this is, sometimes when we talk about Ahsoka, she can be the sort of the Jedi who never stumbles, never loses her path. And I think rewatching this arc of no, she does. I think she makes the right choice at the end. Mm-hmm. But she has lots of ups and downs, right? I like how much her doubts are seeded through this. Like, she doesn't maybe even realize how strong they are, mm-hmm. but she has lots of doubts. She's got big outrage that the Senate is going to get the military police involved in take it away mm-hmm. from the Jedi. She is a little distraught by the Jedi treatment of the maintenance workers. She has that line when they're seeing the living conditions of Letta Terman of I would have thought working for the Jedi paid better. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. She does have that moment of being tempted toward vengeance on Letta. Mm-hmm. And she's striving to move past those emotions, like she talks to Barriss about. So we have all these moments, I think, in this arc of where Ahsoka does have trust and kind of triumphs, but then gives into fear, right? Yeah. She trusts Anakin, but she fears that the rest of the Jedi will not give her a fair chance. Maybe that's a rational fear. Mm. Is that that Moral points out in the third episode. She trusts Barriss, right? Which she shouldn't. And she trusts Asajj initially, which is this great leap of faith, to your point, right? Mm-hmm. Of I'm following my instincts. I sense that you have changed. We have common ground. I'm reaching out to make a connection. Just all of this mm-hmm. triumph in the relationship between Asajj and Ahsoka. But then Barriss successfully manipulates Ahsoka into giving into her fear. And Ahsoka spends the rest of the arc assuming that it is Asajj. And I think that's really powerful. There's the plot mechanics of Barriss has stolen Asajj's lightsabers and mask. Mm-hmm. But you would think that if Ahsoka had not given into fear so deeply, she would have been able to question. I saw a person with lightsabers and a mask. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I did not see Asajj, but she gives into her fear that Barriss stokes, and that's kind of the moment of failure for Ahsoka in this arc. I think. I think it also reflects a little bit on the Jedi Council and Order, where the Jedi have trouble understanding why Ahsoka would work with Ventress. Right? They all have this kind of what even in Anakin's maybe got. Even a little bit of jealousy in a way of just why with her? Why is she won't accept my help, or she's running from me, but why her? And the Jedi are so blinded by a lot of things going on. Again, these small steps, and Ahsoka is able to eventually work through that, but has some great moments. It's kind of this theme of the healing of the abandoned too. Just both of them being able to connect over that for a bit there. And I think and from Ventress's side, it's a real connection, right? That, she experiences there. So anyways, I agree with you there on the Ventress stuff. Yeah, no, it's the Ventress Ahsoka relationship here is so great. It adds mm-hmm. to Ventress's overall story, but is just woven into this arc in a really great way. And I think for me, it's just it's so powerful to really look at what is actually being said mm-hmm, at the end of this episode and why Ahsoka walks away. Right? She's not I've got it figured out. It is about trust. The fact that she says the council didn't trust me, so how can I trust myself? I think mm-hmm. this is about, she knows what Barriss did is wrong. I'm sure she's hurt and shocked. But I think she's also beginning to perceive that okay, but everyone around me, everyone I've talked to, mm-hmm. from Tarkin to Letta to crowds outside are questioning the Jedi's involvement in the war.
Mm.
And and if we're becoming something that we shouldn't be. And I think Ahsoka's asking, am I a part of that?
Yeah.
I don't know, so I have to walk away. And then we have that later arc with the Martez sisters for Ahsoka to answer that question. But I think this ends on a question, not this defiant, I figured it all out, I'm walking away. It ends on her not trusting herself, questioning herself.
Yeah, there's this is her life's goal, right? And Anakin says that this is your life. It's his life. It had become his life. And that's sometimes, I think, if you just want to talk about these lessons for those watching the Clone Wars, particularly young folks coming up, and you got this character, little Snips, that's now in this, this big growth point. It's saying it nicely. It is about finding herself, but the journey begins, right? She's going off to find herself. And that's one of the best endings. I could never have predicted that. Remember, we were all so concerned what's going to happen to Ahsoka. She's got to die, right? She's got to die. That was the conversation for so many years. And this is just such a better way. It's a better, more powerful lesson for Star Wars. And in a way, you follow me on this thread too. Some of the stuff you've discussed about Last Jedi being a movie that deconstructs what Star Wars is about to ask if it's important, and at the end of the film says, "Yeah, I guess the stuff's important." Yeah, I think Ahsoka's about to start that own journey, right? Taking all this stuff. These are strange times, Ventress tells her, and Ventress even says, "So the Jedi aren't so holy after all." That's almost like we got to remind. We know where Ventress's pain comes. Ahsoka's taking all of this and says the values are sacred to me. And I love that she's going to go figure out the values, not the order, not the structure. What are the values? How do I connect with them? Are they valid? Are the things that we're trying to accomplish valid? And in the end, the answer is going to be yes. But what an interesting, powerful way to start that journey.
Yeah. What an interesting way to get back to that point of the values of the Jedi are sacred to me, but I am caught up in not questioning the structure and not questioning my masters and not listening. I also, I wanted to ask you about this. I feel like there is sort of a consequence to her giving into her leaning toward vengeance, right? Like, we see that Ahsoka's angry. She's picked that up or shares that with her master, right? You can't do that to the Jedi. You're going to answer for that. Anakin, we see multiple times in the episode just using force chokes and using violence and getting furious. Ahsoka's not there, but she displays that desire for vengeance. And there's a part of me that wants to read the arc as that's what gives Barriss the idea to frame Ahsoka, so that it's not Ahsoka's fault, but her expressing, "Whoa, we're going to get that letter. She's got to answer for that," opens the door to what happens to her. Again, I'm not saying it's her fault.
Yeah.
But because it's Barriss's fault because Barriss did it, period.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like Barriss planned this, right? She's got the scapegoat of Letta. They've got Letta the scapegoat, but now Barriss is getting a little worried. And then Ahsoka, her friend, offers herself up on a platter as somebody to frame.
I love that idea. I'll follow that headcanon trail. It makes a lot of sense because I don't think... Barriss couldn't count on any Jedi falling this deep into the plan, right? So I think you're right. I think it emerged. She adapted almost brilliantly. It would have had it if it wasn't for those kids, and succeeds because of that. There's so many similarities. There's that true connection between Anakin and Ahsoka, right? We've seen the growth that it's. I've heard it described as in tune with each other, and they're just kind of really connected. And so, there's a little bit of a danger. Maybe Ahsoka has that choice in front of her too, of seeing what Anakin is. Maybe that's a lot of the stuff at the end. Again, Anakin is just like, I can't imagine quitting this baseball team. I wanted to be a Jedi my whole life. And how many times in our own lives do we I wanted to be part of that. And then once I got there, that wasn't who I was, or wasn't the end of my journey. And so, stepping back to your point of Barriss kind of seeing that rage, seeing that anger, seeing the clouds of revenge versus justice, and then adjusting on the fly to pull Ahsoka in. And Ahsoka's got to find her way out of that.
Yeah. No, I love all of the comparisons between Ahsoka and Anakin. That they're both very compassionate, but that curdles into something else for Anakin, and they both strive to move past their emotions and not let them turn into attachment and pain. And Ahsoka response is to, I don't know where I am, so I'm going to take a step away. And Anakin could have said, good idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to go hand in my badge, my Jedi, my robes. He doesn't have a Padawan braid to cut off, so he'd cut off a little lock.
Little lock.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he can't. I mean, and even this whole situation is Anakin trying to fix something and control something, right? Like, I'll help you. I can fix this. Such that Anakin trait, and even at the end, it's kind of like, no, I can fix this. Where she has the strength to just kind of walk away into the unknown.
Yeah, trusting herself. Yeah, I also think that Barriss herself is giving into fear, right? I think it's so important in the little scene that Ahsoka and Barriss have, that Ahsoka reminds Barriss of the fear that she had in the Geonosis arc. I remember when we were watching that Geonosis arc to be like, this stuff is going to come back, of like how much Barriss has a cooler relationship with her master, Luminara, feels even more uncomfortable in the war, fearful for herself, pretty quick to give up, right? Like, she's asking Ahsoka to strike her down when she has the brainworms in, and Ahsoka's like having hope in fighting on. So like, Barriss, we know, has been uncomfortable this entire war, feels, terrorized by it. So like, there's this part of the story where like she is observing true things and expressing true things of the Jedi have lost their way and they are perpetuating the dark side by fighting this war. But it's also a personal fear, right? Of she doesn't like this. She doesn't know how to go forward with it. So she lashes out in this horrific way. Yeah,
absolutely. Showing maybe, unfortunately, a lack of courage. And again, I think we want to be careful to, it's this fictional character, but we don't want anyone to so strongly identify with Barriss to think that we're attacking any choices in your life. But this is a lesson. This is Star Wars putting out, here's how this could go. And here's the way you could choose it. It could be even, again, a lesson for Anakin. You talk about his bucket of irony lines there he's got going on, collection of irony, but him talking about Dooku and Krell and saying that, well, they're political idealists, a line we all know well, but they grew into traitors, right? And that Anakin's kind of marking a path here that they all go, but it's a real thing that I love. Palpatine is pure power and greed. Tarkin, we go a little bit more in his backstory, but yeah, he's power and greed. But all these other characters, even the Krells and the Dookus, start from this real honest spot of, I have a question about something. And to end up there, I think it is Star Wars is talking about those choices. I think you're right to point out Barriss back in the day, and the groundwork was there. I'd be so curious to know how far ahead that they had that thought, not in terms of planning a show or planning Star Wars, but just as creatives, as writers, going, who do we have? Who have we? Who has exhibited the fear that we need to expand into more of a story? And then there's Barriss in that tank.
Yeah. Like when we were stuck inside the battle tank on Geonosis, it was hard not to be afraid. Still, you and I got past it. And like, if this was a comedy, there'd be that awkward laugh from Barriss. Like, yeah, we did. And I like when Anakin is confronting Barriss and they're fighting that, she is pretty explicit about these themes of saying, I've learned that trust is overrated. The only thing the Jedi believe in is violence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, a truth that it's not a truth. It's not the only thing the Jedi believe in. It's that the Jedi have, allowed themselves to be manipulated into this war where violence is more and more a part of their day-to-day lives, which Barriss does not, is traumatizing to Barriss. But I've learned that trust is overrated is, I would say that's the sort of antithetical to this. Like, trust is, is what people need to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, how you react to this stuff, how you move on from this stuff. It's just little lessons from Star Wars in a big way.
Yeah. And I like what you're saying about Anakin. I really like that line about Dooku and Krell. It emphasizes that fear, but it also shows that little bit of rigidity that Anakin has, of like, Anakin has lots and lots of reasons to question the Jedi. He does question the Jedi, but instead of kind of doing it really explicitly, like every once in a while he says to like Tarkin or whatever, like, I think we should be more forceful. But he buries those feelings because he's rigid, right? He says that basically, like, people who start out as political idealists questioning the order end up turning against it. It's a real beginning of you're either with me or you're against me thinking that he has. And if he wasn't that rigid about the way he thinks about it, he would maybe open himself up to do what Ahsoka does at the end of this arc, which is allow herself to question.
Yeah. It's that lack of control fear, right? If I really like spaghetti and I start questioning spaghetti, maybe I won't eat it again, or maybe I'll love it more. And you just don't know the open-ended nature of it. And so you just hold on to something and maybe, keep a poison in your life that is slowly killing you that you don't know. From spaghetti to poison, all in one conversation. But now,
a great real world example.
And trying to keep it tame, right? But yeah, no, I think you're right to point out the rigid nature of that belief. And how that factors into Anakin. Again, if he had just been able to take a moment, able to give a little bit more of like, I'm best when I can fix things versus, maybe taking it apart a little bit more to see how you can rebuild it stronger.
Yeah. And she doesn't get a ton of time, but in the short time that she's there, I think it is a great reminder that Padme is this paragon of hope, trust, and questioning. She can question. She is not afraid to question. She's not afraid of what might be if she questions, right?
Yeah.
And that is framed in the little bit of the little bit of criminal defense that we get, where she says, "Why would Ahsoka kill Letta with a method that would so obviously tie the murder to her?" So we see Padme doing what the Jedi haven't been doing, is like question it. They're just seeing like Caddy Monday and CC10, seeing the evidence pile up and going, well, come on. Instead of questioning. And here we get to see Padme actually, questioning the evidence, because that is a pretty, I think that must be one of those lines that like audiences are like, thank you, Padme. Because we're screaming this at the screen,
Well, I think the final theme for me that's in there from the beginning, and then I think you're correct to bring in Padme for it, is this knowledge versus wisdom. We love our Dexter Diner scene. We love that because so many things, including Jabba Juice. But this is kind of a core. Like I joke with people even off air where I'm like, oh, I love the Dexter scene, and why? And I'm like, because it's George Lucas's important statement about the Jedi and the prequels. That whole scene, which might be sometimes going to the extreme. But, they got the search for a killer. All facts point to one thing. Your instincts say otherwise. All their instincts might say otherwise, but they can't question enough to see through it. It's all about knowledge versus wisdom. Russo, I love that scene where Russo's got the simple, all the data flashing before him, and Anakin's like, how do you, well, that's just simple data. And he still can't locate the truth. He still can't locate what he's looking for. I love all that, and then how I think Padme's got wisdom, respects knowledge, but got the wisdom flowing.
Yeah, and I think that tracks so much into Revenge of the Sith, where things are really falling apart, and Padme is wanting to question, like, what if we are the evil that we say we're fighting against? And Anakin's like, no. If you even say that, it makes you a separatist,
Yeah,
and,
he should have yelled in the film, "What am I, Pong Krell?" We all would have gone, what?
Oh, some kind of Pong Krell over here? Is that what I think? Is that what you think I am?
Yeah.
I want to be sure to talk a little bit also just about this great idea that goes throughout of other people's sort of perception of what is the Jedi's role. So obviously that gets framed as, are they soldiers or peacekeepers? Tarkin says it in a taunting way.
Yeah.
Letta Termund, who was complicit in the plot, didn't come up with it, but is a part of it, says the Jedi have become warmongers. They've become military weapons, and they're killing when they should be keeping the peace. Barris's confession: my attack on the temple was an attack on what the Jedi have become, an army fighting for the dark side, fallen from the light that he once held so dear. So everybody is questioning the Jedi, except for maybe the Jedi. Yoda up to it. Yoda up to an extent. I think a lot of the other Kenobi up to an extent, and I think a lot of the other Jedi that we see are just digging in. So I feel like there's this great picture of what happened to them, right? If you just watched this arc, right, you would get that idea of like, well, they gave up their independence by becoming generals. They're now subject to military authority, and that happens again and again with Tarkin taking things away from them. I think Palpatine knows that by isolating the Jedi and taking matters out of their own hand, it makes them feel less in control and more trapped and more panicked. And I think the fact that all of this builds to this actual visual of Anakin and Barriss fighting in all these peaceful places, right? Fighting in her room, shattering the window, and ending up like disturbing, like literally the peaceful progress of the Jedi, of the this nice old master Terrace Nube, and these younglings who just went on this journey, who've just been told they're the shining future of the Jedi, and all of it gets interrupted by this just savage, horrible internal fight. I think it's significant even that Anakin, he's not force choking her, but he's kind of force crushing her against this peaceful tree in the center of the temple. Everything is constructed to show this is how the Jedi opened themselves to being torn apart from the inside.
Absolutely, it is, and look what's even going on in the Clone Wars series itself. This question of why are the Jedi fighting the war, and how do the Jedi lose themselves? How do we get to Order 66? It's not a bunch of plot mechanics. This series, all through it, back to the season 1 and 2, people are questioning the Jedi, right? And it's far away. It's outer rim planets. It's little cultures. Why are you here? It's this and that. And then now in this episode, in this season, it's in Coruscant. It's in the Republic. The people are protesting. They're literally out on the street. They're literally Jedi can't be involved in investigation because, well, people heard it's Jedi and they don't like you. And now it's at their front door. And you're so right. The only people who are like not questioning it are the ones going, do they not like our robes? Like, what is it? What is
our poll numbers down? Yeah.
And through now 5 seasons, this is what it's the questioning was very distant, and now it's right there. It's right there in their doorstep.
Yeah. And I think for me, with my Justice for the Jedi, this rewatch of the Clone Wars report, rewatch the Clone Wars 4 Clone Wars report, it really makes me feel like they were in a bad place and they made a decision that felt right of, Dooku is a Sith. That's our responsibility. The Separatists, whatever the individuals from those planets think, the Separatist army is Grievous and these droids, and they are attacking people, and we got to defend people. And they're trying to defend hospital ships, right? And they're trying to defend planets. And then by the time we get to season 4, they're invading Umbara for tactical reasons. They are, having to go, like we talked about in this episode, they're having to go the long way around neutral planets. And it slides for them from defense to, as Barriss says, fighting for the dark side, right? Because they can't end this war quickly because they don't know the truth of what's going on. And by just fighting more and more and more, causing more chaos, more pain, more doubt, more fear, they are contributing to the dark side.
Yes. And I love how you started that of just like, you totally get the thought process. You totally get it. And that's the slow boiling water of the situation they're in.
Yeah. What are some other ideas? Do you want to move on to big picture stuff or any other individual kind of ideas in this arc?
I think I dumped my theme bucket out on the table. So much there. But yeah, we can go to the big ones if you want to, or if you have some left over too.
No. I think that covered a lot, and there's definitely some stuff. A lot of this is about, sometimes we talk about like, how does the Zillibees tie into the larger story? This one is the larger story.
This is the larger
to
story,
me, Yeah. So where do you go with that? How does this the themes of this arc reflect larger story and perspective of Star Wars?
There was 2 big things, and we're just kind of picking up the ball from where we were playing there in the last round. The loss of democracy and freedom comes slow and steady. This is George's big thing. This is why he goes back to the prequels as well as the Anakin stuff. Yes, there's obviously a lot of layers to what he was trying to do, and what he, by extension, is trying to have the Clone Wars do. And it's it really just crystallized. This is the stuff that from a distance, if you haven't watched these episodes in a while. Oh yeah. Ahsoka gets expelled from the Order and she leaves. Yep. That is huge. But it all is built on this kind of stuff of George showing, and Filoni and team and Charles Murray in these episodes, picking it up and going, here's why, here's the loss. Here's how it happened. It wasn't a fight they lost. It was themselves they lost. And that's what we could do if we're not careful. And it's kind of this big point. It's a large theme of Star Wars, and it's here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is so huge in some ways, just like absolutely what the story is about. You said some great stuff about Anakin. I love how much there are moments of, to me, Anakin the hero. I think he does not lose faith in Ahsoka, right? He does not question that he knows who Ahsoka is, and he does not doubt her for a second. And he is really all of his interactions with Ahsoka herself are so kind and helpful, I think, and goes through some of the standard questioning of Mace being like, yeah, no, you're too close to it. And good old Plo Koon comes in and helps out there. The contrast between the Anakin who's talking to Ahsoka and giving her good advice that he's going to later fail on, and the Anakin who is that Ahsoka isn't seeing, who is pursuing her, who's using a lot of choking and a lot of violence in his fighting style, right? I think that's such a great contrast to show who Anakin is. And then I think the end beat, that so much of what Anakin's story is it's about his fear of losing Padme, what will happen to him. It is not selfless. Yeah. What do I need to do for Padme, or because Padme wants me to? It's what will happen to me if I lose Padme. And I think there are great shadows of that, where obviously Anakin thinks the council mistreated Ahsoka, and he fears losing her. And it's so powerful that she has to say, but I appreciate that you never lost trust in me, but this isn't about you. Direct quote, this isn't about you, Anakin. And how much Anakin is able to hear that. I don't think a lot. I think it's he goes back to that control obsession of like, I failed her, I can fix it, I'll make her lightsabers better. As we learn he does after this, of like, I can fix it, I can make it better somehow, instead of just accepting that I know that she knows that I love her, and I know that she needs to figure this out, so I'll be here for her when she gets back. Like, obviously there's some of that, but there's what internally he's like, how can I fix this? How can I control it?
Look, I wrote this quote down too, because as the son of an overprotective mother, I want to shout this to the roofs, even now at my advanced age. Like, this isn't about you. All those things, I get it. I think you're so right, Joseph. I love you. I know you need to trust me. I need to go do this, and you'll be okay. No matter what happens to me, you have to know that you can be okay if you choose to try. And how that's so tough for Anakin, so tough, which is how Palpatine is able to manipulate him and manipulate him pretty fast after this too. Yeah, it's been a slow one, but like the knife starts turning real big.
Yep. And I mean, in the fact that he expresses it, more than you realize, I understand wanting to walk away from the Order, and Ahsoka's great, I know, which certainly is about Padme, but also just knowing, one another. And the fact that he doesn't go back there and go, you know what, I want to go on a break. And take this,
How many vacation days do I got, Yoda?
Look, okay, the Outer Rim sieges are not vacation. Other two things. One, I just want to have justice for Obi-Wan, because I know he is not Ahsoka's best friend, but sometimes I feel like people are pretty hard on him, and I couldn't remember exactly what Obi-Wan's attitude is in this arc. And he explicitly says we need to stand together with Ahsoka. He advocates a couple times that they can't, just summarily expel her. I forgot there was the crucial line that the vote to expel her was not unanimous.
Yes.
So I hold hope that Obi-Wan and Plo Koon voted no.
I mean, come on, Plo. You even evoke little Ahsoka. You even say little Ahsoka. You don't get to do that if you didn't vote to keep her.
Yeah. And then I forgot there's this great beat of Ahsoka leaves after refusing the braid. Anakin follows, and Obi-Wan takes the step to follow too, the train of apprentices and masters and friends, and Plo Koon holds him back. So there you go. Justice for Obi-Wan. He was trying to get involved and help.
Yeah, absolutely was.
Final big picture thing for me, Ken, is I don't feel like there is any evidence in this arc that Palpatine had a damn thing to do with this one, but he must have been thrilled, right?
Yes, absolutely. This thing goes to one of my favorite things of Palpatine, which is always weird to say. It's again, sounds like I don't have a Palpatine jersey on. I just love it's just so the evilness and the danger of the character. He has a great plan. He does nothing without strategy, but man, he knows how to adjust. When Padme says, I'm going back to Naboo. Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, you do that. You do that. Now this one, yes, he's probably in his office. You don't get to see that scene of him going, what a good day. They're blowing the place up and people are protesting. Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I was looking this up. I think there's some reference book that implied that Palpatine had something to do with it. But I'm just going to talk about the arc. Like, I feel like Palpatine has to know, like, on his list of like, oh, this Padme connection is great. Oh, he lost his mother and he went dark. Perfect. Obi-Wan's going to be a problem, and yeah, he's got to lose that Padawan, right? Can't have her whispering in his ear that I gotta somehow curdle that affection between them into something that he fears losing. And then I think he's got to be in his office like, because of all of the horrible dark things I've done, this other Jedi broke and drove her away. Great. He lost another one and I barely had to lift a finger. I had to show up at the court.
It's a 2-for-1 sale. This is beautiful.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe there'll be some storytelling at some point that changes that. But I'm talking about in the arc. I saw no evidence that Palpatine was stirring the pot on this one, other than being responsible for the conditions that caused it.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other big thoughts, or should we take a quick break?
Quick one. I just want to put it. We did talk about it, but I just wrote down this idea of when the order is lost, follow the values, and I think that's something that George and team, but George is about, and I think I just always goes back to the Jedi conversation. If at no point was George Lucas saying the Jedi in concept and theory are bad, toss them away, leave them, believe the lies of the enemy. He's saying that we need them. And Star Wars says that so many times, we need them, but they lost their way. So when they lose their way and you're trying to find yourself and you're taking these leaps of faith and trust and trying to find hope, even though it's bad, follow the values, follow the stated values and go from there. So that can, I think, can track into real life with, like I said before, any organization that you're a part of or anything that you've believed and the structure seems to be a little wonky. I think go to the core and maybe you can reconnect and still represent that. Still represent what a director's guild is supposed to do, even though you're not a part of it anymore, all those kind of things. And I just think that we just see it more and more. It's very, it's in fashion again to just say, Jedi, toss them out. They needed to go anyways.
Yeah. And I think that this is a great justice for the Jedi arc in Ahsoka, right? Mm-hmm. Because she is somebody who believes in hope, believes in compassion. The Jedi are needed to stand up and, fight back against the darkness and defend people, not overstep, not overgrab power, not become a victim themselves to their fear. And Ahsoka stands up and goes, okay, we're doing that. So let me step away and get back on the path of what a true Jedi is. And I do think it's a defense of what a true Jedi is, not a tearing down of everything the Jedi have ever been. Yeah, that line about the values are sacred to me, and she's saying it to everyone. Like, that's pretty powerful. Yeah, and I'm really happy to have rewatched this arc more recently as we go into seeing the follow-up arc with the Martez sisters, where I think Ahsoka does answer some of these questions for herself. Mm-hmm. Agreed. Excellent. All right, we will take a quick break, and we will be back to talk about some of our favorite moments in this big arc. And we are back to continue our discussion of the big arc, Ahsoka's big choice, the Jedi's big given into fear. A lot of bigs. We always like to talk action moments, comedy moments, canon moments. Definitely some action moments in this one. Ken, so where do you go? What were some of your favorite action moments in this arc? We have to go to the start, which is this wonderful opening sequence on Cato Demodia, and you got the stuff with Ahsoka saving Anakin. You said so well in your summary, just kind of proving how... where she is, not even necessarily, how far she's come, but just like where she is right now.
I love all that, but just it's some wonderful Star Wars action, which you kind of need. It pulls you in. It's almost tricking us. You're ready to get an art. We're getting towards Revenge of the Sith time. You got even the new Jedi starfighters there. Anakin crashes his right away. Well, not necessarily his fault. You got the buzz droids. It's a big, wonderful sequence, and it's okay to also just enjoy it as that too. A big bit of action.
Yeah, it is a great bit of action, and I think it's once you get into the episode, that image of the buzz droids underneath that kind of hits you, at least hit me as sort of thematic. But when I'm first watching, like, this is just fun. Where Anakin's so cocky and like being cool, using the Force to blow him off. Like, when are these buzz droids going to learn? They're messing with the wrong Jedi. In that moment where Ahsoka's like, R2, tip your wing. That's so great. It's so great. I love that.
Yeah, I love that.
It's kind of an action moment. I really love the hologram recreation of the explosion, and they're just walking casually through this carnage.
And Anakin's like, I could still hear the voices. I could still pick. It's
I can still hear the screams. I think feel the screams.
Still screams. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So where else do you go action beat wise?
It's a total small one. I like the character of Letta in a way. I remember liking the character. The design is a very modern hat. It's like she's going to a party in Hollywood here. But I just like it's a tragic character. But she has this moment where she's getting ready to escape and she sees that citizen and then throws the citizen at Ahsoka. I just thought I just love the beat. It was a real fun action moment.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. And you think for a minute, like, is she going to get away from the Jedi? No.
No. That's
going for me into the second episode. It's just obviously emotionally impactful, but I love all of Ahsoka swatting the stun bolts away in the way they sort of like explode, kind of dissipate. It's terrifying and beautiful action. We didn't talk about it as much because there's so much to talk about, but I think another important part of this arc is showing how the Republic has already changed. The view of the prison isn't just like, oh, cool, it's like the Death Star. Like there's that canon stuff, but there's that more important, like, oh, look at those flags in those statues. These are images of real life fascism. So the fact that all of the chase is Ahsoka, running through these terrifying dark places makes it even more exciting. But just the visual of those stun bolts and the swatting them away, so cool.
I know. I particularly loved the stun bolt blast. Everything about the design of it, the sound, the way they just kind of poofed out of the sky in a weird way. I love that. But no, I really think it's important what you're saying too. Of like even in the prison, the Jedi have no power there, right? Like they all going to turn their weapons away. And when Anakin goes back, even kind of his own, he loves the clones. They can't listen. They're not taking. They even have the electro staffs. The Jedi have no power. They're slowly being replaced by Palpatine, and then the distrust, which we were talking about, the themes of now Palpatine's just 3 steps away from going, see, they were bad. It's erased them from history. You just kind of see this play, and then just Tarkin's he got the budget approvals to build all these things that it's starting to see and starting to look like Revenge of the Sith. Filoni, in doing some notes research here, Filoni calls this Ahsoka escape the most Star Wars that the Clone Wars series had been to this point.
Oh, wow.
He says this is, and he described it as this, it's stormtroopers chasing a Jedi with Darth Vader hunting down this Jedi. And I saw that between viewings and I went back and watched it and hot damn, turns out that cowboy hat guy, he kind of knows some stuff. It is really, it jumps out of that. It's obviously a little bit different feel for Vader, Anakin, but it is the image of it. It's the same kind of thing. These specialized stormtrooper, clone troopers chasing this Jedi. And so he was saying that both on the cool side of like, it's kind of what you would expect, right? These armored troopers and the Jedi's fighting them. And then you got the big bad, we know is going to emerge later, hunting her down. He's the one successfully finding her in the big fugitive tip there. Anyways, so in rewatch, it's a great sequence for a lot of reasons, and that it stems from that stuff too, I think.
Yeah, and I think you feel the story in the aesthetic, from the vision of the prison to even seeing the stun bolts that we know from, on screen, on big live action screen. We know from A New Hope. It feels like the era is starting to come together.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some other action moments for you?
I jumped to Barriss a couple moments. She's got these two brutal lightsaber fights, but the one with Ahsoka is when they first meet and she's this Ventress. Like, it's I don't know, it made me think about how far Barriss is slipping here and talking about the bad choices. This is Ahsoka. Her friend. Like, without a doubt, she's so far gone. She's so far made the choice to go down the path that it turns into this brutal fight. But also a brutal lightsaber fight is sometimes fun to watch.
Oh, it is extremely fun to watch. I love that warehouse fight. I think because of Barriss kind of allowing herself to be brutal and knowing Ahsoka, it feels like a very structured takedown of, like, I know you're going to try to fight kind of quote unquote fair.
Yeah.
And I am going to throw things at you, come at you from behind. There's nothing to be honor. It's like, Barriss is, rightfully pointing out that the Jedi have fallen, but she also seems to be relishing being what she claims the Jedi have become, right? Like, she seems to be relishing. I can put on the mask of a Sith and just, tear Ahsoka apart.
Yeah. Jumping to the Anakin fight too, which I have. It's my other big action moment to discuss. But she has those lightsabers, the Ventress ones, and she has that line of like, I'm paraphrasing, but like, yeah, they look good on me. Like, I'm like, wait, are you trying to go Sith? I thought you were trying to prove some other point. What are you trying to do? You've lost your way.
Yeah. No, I think that story with Barriss is just fascinating. Of like, yes, I don't know. It is that weird sort of like hypocrisy thing of, you're wrong to punch people, and so I must punch you, which is very complicated. But I'm just using that as a simple example of her seeming to relish the violence, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that last big fight between Anakin and Barriss is so great. I love her window slash, as she just goes hurling toward that window and cuts it and slashes it. And we talked about kind of the thematic power of it, but I love Anakin's, like, I remember the tension the first time I watched this of like, can Barriss hold her own at all with Anakin when this inevitably goes down, and he's got all this anger, and like, she seems like she's a good fighter, and he is, kept on his toes, right? And then it's just when he decides to unleash, it's very Vader-like. It's those big, heavy swings, like he's putting the force into his arms and he's just crushing her, right? It's not about, do you know this form? Do you see this coming? It's just like, I'm going to hit your lightsaber so hard, I'm going to break your wrist. Like, it's violent.
Oh, yeah. It's him tapping into that anger, right? Quicker, seductive, more easy. You can win a fight pretty darn good. I think you're right, because I love the fight, and Barriss is getting some shots. There's that, what she like kind of, when he falls down into the training center with the Padawans and the younglings there with Terasuvi, like, he gets shoved, man. And then it made me think of like Vader falling in Return of the Jedi too. Like, he gets pushed down or he falls down the stairs and stuff too. And all of a sudden, it almost was like Anakin was like, enough. And that's a scary thing.
Yeah, no, but exciting lightsaber fight. Well done. All sorts of great stuff. Last thing I'll go back for is, I did like when Ventress and Ahsoka are teamed up, and just, Ahsoka insists on not hurting the clones. And that's a pretty thorough, great elbows and legs fight.
Yes. Yeah. Love that.
All right. So let's move on then to moments of, unless there's anything else.
No. I mean, I went kind of general with the big lightsaber fights, but they were just so good.
Yeah. No, the lightsaber fights were great. All the pipes and the barrels being thrown around in the warehouse, all the big swings, the Uneti tree, Terasuvi getting his lightsaber out just in case.
Yeah, just in case.
Great. So let's talk about comedy, whimsy, weirdness. There are definitely some things that made me laugh, but some of them were the sort of irony. Outside of Russo ISC and the CSI backwards and got it. outside of him, I don't feel like, and a couple of the citizens of the lower depths there. There's some kind of fun moments, but in general, Clone Wars, like all Star Wars, can have silly moments, and Clone Wars can have some extremely silly moments.
Yeah.
Mashed up with the horror. I felt like the silly was pretty light. What did you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. And not a ton here. It starts off, the banter's great. And even just Anakin saying, no problem. Slight problem. All the buzz droids. Buzz droids seem to bring that out in people. Even the Ahsoka, tip your wing. I'll see how bad it is. And then R2 does it. And I took it as like a Raiders of the Lost Ark's tarantula joke of just like, other than that, I laughed. Oh my God, I didn't even write it down, but Yoda said something about the chamber of judgment or something like that.
Yes, it's
and I
so
laughed,
harsh.
I laughed because it's like, whoa, Jedi, calm it down.
Yeah. Do you also have the theater of shame? Like, it sounds really, really rough.
Totally.
One thing that made me laugh early on is when R2 appears to die, which is horrible. You see the ship exploding, and Ahsoka gets upset, and then R2 flies up, and she says, "Oh, very funny, R2." And then R2 has that smug little chortle.
Yeah, R2.
That cracked me up.
Always saving the day.
And of all of Russo ISC's little moments, I really liked that he was like, I was assigned by sunglasses, Mace Windu. Like that gives it more authority of like Mace Windu, the very serious Jedi Master.
What was the CSI Miami sound cue? Is it the Who? Is it?
I think so. I'm not a big fan of those shows. I have nothing against them. I just haven't watched a ton of them. So.
I'm not either. But it was fun. Yeah, no, that was great. That I laughed, but again, it was one of those things like the comedy does come from the character truly, but just when we have found Jakar, they rush all the way over there. I meant his hand. Come on. But I thought it was funny.
Yeah, that was great. That was really, really great. I also I laughed. I don't think it was intended anyway, but it was just it caught me by surprise when Anakin and Ahsoka are chasing Letta. When Anakin shouts to Ahsoka, "Take the high road."
Yes, yeah.
It's like it's a little bit. It was just too on the nose. Of he means that literally in the chase, and is also predicting the end of this story.
Love that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I also like the Twilight Kid. Just the language barrier of press the stop button. Press the stop button.
Yeah, that is really good. And Ahsoka's like, I'm off my game. Yeah. In that whole chase, when she's down in the lower depths and clones everywhere, not clones, but Coruscant security guards at that point, I really liked the screaming Alina, who is very upset, and the burping hilarious. Anaconda.
Yes.
I love that at a certain point, they're just like snakes. Snakes are in Star Wars, and they're wrapped around poles on the train and everything.
Yeah. Well, I guess for whimsy, the final like an actual Tuca cat finally showing up. First time we technically see it outside of a toy, and love the cat that would become the galaxy's house cat is there. Yeah,
and the shadow that looks like Ahsoka. I love that.
Yeah.
A couple other moments for me. I liked Ahsoka's line to Barriss. I'm okay if you consider Anakin and 100 clones on my tail to be a good space to be in.
Sorry, I love that.
Yeah, it's a very good line. And that's probably I think the thing that was intended to be funny, that was the funniest to me, is after Ahsoka it says, Asajj, you can't, kill these clones.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them are laying there moaning. And Asajj says, see, didn't kill one. It's the new me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the banters. I don't want to fight. I do. They're a fun comedy duo. Fun comedy duo,
and Asajj has always had that sass, so I'm glad that was really captured here. Other moments for you?
That is, I think it. I can't forget. I put an Ahsoka quote of just, oh no, but it's in the second episode. I can't remember what it is, but it's one of those ones that's not intended to be comedy, but just the delivery of it is interesting. It's fun. And I want to shout out here too. Is thinking about Ashley Eckstein, obviously so memorable and associated with this role. Going back to the original point of like these 4 episodes to kind of show the maturation of the show and the maturation of Ahsoka. Her voice work towards the end, like it's a little, it's like a little deeper. It's a little somber. It's just bigger. It's more adult Ahsoka, and it comes through. And that journey from Snips to this is pretty clear. But I just thought of some of Ashley's best work.
Yeah, and I so love that Anakin does call her Snips at one point, which really, really makes you flash back to, very young, very unsure Ahsoka,
Yeah.
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 Two other comedy moments for me. We'll talk more about the Jedi Temple Guards, but I love when they are trying to intervene in the fight between Barriss and Anakin, and they say, cease hostility, and then ignite 4 blades. And I put it in comedy. I'm sorry. Mace's, that was your great trial. Now we see that. Like, the actual point is the hubris of we didn't stop the question. But it's just one of those times where I feel like often the Jedi are right to say, let's go with the flow. Let's question and listen to the Force. Let's meditate. Let's listen to our instincts. Now we see that was the will of the Force. But this felt like Mace Windu's a total, I meant to do that.
It's even watching, like, I remember seeing it the first time being like, this is a little wonky. But I love it. I watched the scene like 4 times this morning just to see even Yoda, like, Jedi you will be. Yeah. Like everyone, it's embarrassing, Jedi. It's embarrassing.
It really is. You expect Ki-Adi-Mundi to lean in and go, we can paper this over. Can't we, Ahsoka?
Oh, forgive and forget. Yeah.
That is the Jedi way.
Yeah. But it's the point. We get the point. We had these big discussions of theme, but I also was laughing. You're absolutely right. It counts.
I also think some of that philosophy is kind of built up with Asajj. I meant to compliment her more. Like, she takes a leap of faith to your point with Ahsoka, right? Believing that Ahsoka actually will try to get her pardon.
Yeah.
That's a huge leap of faith. And at one point she says, I'm going to trust you for now, but I'm just going to go, with the flow. She says something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, but like, that's actual, being responsive to the moment, as opposed to Mace's last minute trial. Great stuff.
Yeah. Love it.
All right. So we are going to move on then to canon, lore, connections to other stories. You ready to dive into that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I want to just start off with a couple of big things, because there's a lot of big things and lots of little small fun things. But Barriss Offee's fate. I double checked on good old Wikipedia, and this is the last we know of Barriss Offee officially. And of course, people have suspected over the years that she's going to be an Inquisitor, and is this Inquisitor that we get introduced to, is that going to be Barriss Offee, which always has felt to me like a logical place that Barriss Offee would go. But I'm just I have some thoughts and some theories, but first I want to just throw it out to you. How do you feel about the unknown nature of Barriss Offee's fate, and that she hasn't popped up in a logical role of an Inquisitor?
That we know she rescued Grogu now? Yeah. It's interesting. I am more intrigued by the idea of redemption for her now. I'm with you. I would love the idea, and there was a strong rumors, right? Strong rumors were popping up that she would appear in that role somewhere, someplace. It does make sense, right? But I don't know. There's just something about the idea. I want her to be held accountable. I like that idea in life of people being held accountable for their decisions. But Star Wars is also this morality tale about redemption's at the key of it. If she's captured or if she's imprisoned there, and Order 66 happens, and she breaks free, and instead of going, yeah, you're right, I want to put the knife in the heart of the Jedi Order myself. Instead goes, no, they're destroying what the values that I actually once held dear. I'd love to see her turn around, and I would love to see her rescue Grogu. All right, I don't have a strong opinion about that, but that's kind of where I would like to see if they're going to use the character again. Knowing Dave like we do, he loves those characters that could be brought back in with great impact. So it could make sense.
Yeah. So when I was looking it up, there was a quote in Wikipedia from a Clone Wars panel. I can't remember in what convention, but one of the, the things we were going to do with Clone Wars, that she was originally written to die in the last episode of this arc. But Filoni wanted to keep her alive because he had plans for the character. Which really makes sense to me, because I kind of feel like if somebody was just looking at, hey, we got this Inquisitor story, she is perfect to be an Inquisitor, right? You can imagine. Well, she got thrown into prison, and then when the Jedi have fallen, and Palpatine is going, hey, I want to take some Jedi who are on the edge and break them. Like, well, she's already close, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that makes me feel like there's a very good chance to see her in live action eventually with Ahsoka. And I think that it is, I think that she's got to be tied to Ahsoka's larger arc.
Yeah. Well, because she has, this isn't a one-time deal, right? She's shown up a few times, and it's always around Ahsoka, and they're always kind of same age, skill level. They're coming up the ranks in the same time. So I've always taken it as that. Yeah, that makes some sense.
Yeah, because he's like, I think even in one of the Art of Mandalorian books we were looking at, there's that quote of like, well, Ahsoka was off the table as somebody who would actually train Grogu, because I've got other plans for her.
Yeah.
We know, that's just one example. We know that I think Filoni has a big picture view of Ahsoka's fate. I think, I don't know how much storytelling is left. I don't know how many seasons of Ahsoka there might be. I think Ahsoka is ending up in Mortis eventually. So maybe Barriss is coming with somebody who has dabbled in the dark side.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, but excited to see Barriss Offee's return, and excited that there is kind of a larger picture for it. Very excited to this idea that she could represent so many things. She could represent redemption. She could represent, like, I was right, I was always right. Barriss Offee could be the in-universe version of, the story is the Jedi are bad and they've always been bad.
Right.
They shouldn't have taken me from my family. Like, she could represent that as well. It's really exciting to think about how she could be, what stories could be told with the character.
Really agree. Absolutely.
Okay, so moving on, I got this big category here of canon stuff called Jedi business, because there's so much. I'm going to run down it, and then we can decide what we want to talk about, because there's so much. The revelation that just regular people have day jobs at the Jedi Temple.
Love it.
Right? Like Steve fills out some forms and goes through a lot. And then I love that quote from Lada. Do you have any idea what someone has to go through to work in the Jedi Temple? We get some actual spoken dialogue from Sin Dralig, the Jedi based on, of course, the sword master of the prequels. That's so great there, Nick Gillard. This is the first appearance of the Jedi Temple Guards. Will be featured more prominently in Rebels, and just an amazing, amazing design. We saw this sort of Jedi tomb ceremony when Obi-Wan had his fake death, but here we see it with actual death. Right. As you pointed out, the wonderful Jedi Chamber of Judgment. We've already been joking about this, of course, but Terrace Nube training the younglings from the Gathering arc. Very fun to see them again. Yeah. The name check of Dooku and Ponkrell, of course, which we've talked about a lot. So we could just get to see a lot of different aspects of the Jedi and opinions. Out of all this stuff, what were you intrigued by?
The more the day-to-day functions of the Jedi at this time, the Temple, and it's, as we keep going farther and farther into the High Republic era, just seeing the Jedi functioning, I love the idea of civilian employees with some high level clearance and what you have to go to get to that. I've always been obsessed with the Jedi and Temple Guards, so I love seeing them, and I love that I forget that this is the actual debut of them and run around, because I'm like, they're Jedi, but how do you get that role? Do you want that role? We see how it ties into the Grand Inquisitor. You're a Jedi, but you're not allowed into the library, so to speak. A lot of that stuff with the Inquisitor. So I think I go to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love seeing the function, the day-to-day function. The Jedi Temple Guards are so great. This is such a great arc to introduce them, because on one hand, it's so great, this idea of like, you could diversify. Like, not everybody is meant to be a Jedi Knight. Some are, archivists. Right. Some are fully trained Jedi, but they really function as diplomats specifically, and some are guards, and all these different ideas of what a Jedi can be. So on one side, it's like, oh, it's great. There are options, and of course, security is needed, and of course, with an ancient organization, you have traditions and ceremony and symbols. But in this time, in this specific arc, where the Jedi are leaning into what they know, their traditions, their rules, the Jedi Temple guards come off as so rigid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of like, we don't even see their faces.
Yeah.
That they are covered and just enforcing the rules, regardless of the spirit. They're enforcing the rules and ready to ignite those blades. Like, no fighting in the halls, blades ignite.
No fighting in the war room. Yeah, but look, you got to protect those windows, man. It's a lot of glass to clean up.
Very, very valuable, and still unclear exactly where the Jedi get their money. So yeah, absolutely. Now, for you, we've talked a lot about this line in Star Wars between the fantasy, where it's an ancient temple where warrior monks meditate and debate, and that's all high fantasy. But then you're getting down to the point of like, okay, what kind of forms do you have to fill out to work there? It's really tipping into that sort of hyper realism where like, does anybody have like a magazine kiosk that they run for the Jedi Temple? Like, it can really tip into the realism side of Star Wars. Does that bother you at all?
No, I oddly enough enjoy it. Like, I'd love to see a Jedi snack bar. I think that's why for years, I think Jocasta Nu is one of those first, coming out of the prequels, one of those first little trivia answers. That even now in 2022, you'll say, the Jedi librarian, Jocasta Nu, and people will be like, what? Jedi have a librarian? Like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, yeah, they have a library. You saw that film, right? I love that stuff. It doesn't distract from the fantasy for me. It's not too real. It's fun to get lost in that kind of stuff. This is why I love, again, going back to Dexter, I love that Obi-Wan's got a restaurant he hits up. Like, fascinated by that stuff. It just makes, from some reason, it just helps the fantasy out even a little bit more for me. I get lost in the daydream of it, and it doesn't distract.
Yeah, I feel that way too. I think for me, it's about kind of how it's handled. Like, I know for Dexter's Diner, that's the reason some people don't like it, is because it feels too real world. It feels too cheeky. It feels too much like a 50s diner. I'm not affected by that. I'm affected by all the ideas that are there. And I feel like that's the way I feel about this too. If it was too cheeky, if it was kind of making a joke out of, they have to, it's a real long, the taxes. Wow. Like, if they made a joke out of it, I maybe would be like, okay. But this is so embedded in the story, and this idea that like, it's not just the Jedi who are fighting a war, that they've become generals. They're a part of the machine of war, and these people are working there and vulnerable because the Jedi are making them vulnerable by being a part of the war.
Yeah. Oh God. And they're the civilians have the trust in the Jedi, and there's an example of why it's destroyed and the bigger themes in the episode. And to the point too, like I like you mentioned how the Jedi get paid. That's a fun question I love to laugh about and love to even think about. Like, where's the money? What's going on? Who's got the James Bond credit card here? I just never get hung up on it. And that's where I think it can tip into that, where if you let that distract you, like, you know what I think? I thought about it in this episode, because Ahsoka's in a jail cell, Satine and Almec. There's never a refresher in those jail cells. And I'm always like, well, how? But then that's about the end of the conversation with me.
Yeah. I think that's it. I love realism when it adds to the story, and I'm fine with fantasy being like, there's not a narrative reason for there to be a potty in there. So there isn't. Yes. That's why. Because the story doesn't need a toilet. So moving on to other things, we could talk about all the Jedi stuff forever, because there's such great stuff there, including the Chamber of Judgment. Great quote from Anakin, a part of the Anakin Irony collection. Remember, revenge is not the Jedi way, when Ahsoka is getting a little angry about Letta. But that's a pretty direct connection to what Vader says to Ahsoka when they're fighting on Malachor, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely is.
That gets her to respond, "I'm no Jedi."
Yeah.
So I thought that was great to see those connections that are so numerous between Clone Wars and Rebels. Yeah. Moving on to some other smaller things, the Buzz droids. I love that we're getting closer to Revenge of the Sith. But as R2 started fighting them, I remembered, like, okay, Is this going to be canon breaking if he knows to hit them in the center eye?
I thought that too. Yep, absolutely.
And he doesn't, right?
He doesn't. He doesn't.
He learns that later. We talked about the war planning scene, a very brief scene where they name check some known systems, the Know-It system, and move into Seleucami. So that was great to hear those combinations of planets from the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy. A lot of known clones, Commander Fox, who we're going to spend some more unfortunate time with. Oddball, apparently the only clone pilot, because he always comes up when
he's the only one.
When people are flying. No, he's always
It's like a G.I. Joe. You had Ace and Wild Bill. They're the ones that flew every G.I. Joe plane for a while in helicopter.
I'm sure there are many more in all the stories, but I love that Oddball pops up as the go-to pilot. Commander Wolf being with the Wolf Pack. Obviously, that's great to see his history with Ahsoka.
Yep.
Given that he lives on. This was a really fun one. Fun in a terrifying way. I loved how much Tarkin's interrogation moves towards Ahsoka were, the same as his interrogation moves towards Leia. The angles of the shot, the leaning in, the advancing, the chin grabbing, all that stuff.
The chin grab, yeah, absolutely. We talk about it a lot of times when Anakin has lines he says later on. It's not just a funny reference; it's his repertoire, and Tarkin's repertoire is evil.
Evil, yeah. Is that one for you? Is that like two? Is that two on the nose, or is it like that's his moves? Those are his moves. That's what he does.
I think I know it's his moves, man. And I think early on we talked about even Filoni and Henry Gilroy say first two seasons were, oh my God, we get to work on a Star Wars show. Can we make a lot of references? And Clone Wars matures past that. And so anytime it does things like this, it's with great purpose. And I just love it for the character of Tarkin. And what it means for the evil in the galaxy.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way. And this is such a big Tarkin making the push. A couple other things. It's fun to see Massifs on Coruscant. Those space doggies get around. Yoda has a luminous beings line, which is great. I think that's part of his repertoire. That's his belief. This is Tim Curry's full premiere is Palpatine, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
On not including that one line that we talked about last episode.
Yeah.
We also went back to a great early Clone Wars tradition, which is to show Mon Mothma but give her no lines.
Yeah, you're right.
We see Bail Mon Mothma in Rio Chuchi in the gallery at the trial, witnessing the breakdown of the Republic, which I really like that because it is just that reminder of like almost all the power players are in that room, right? And it's in this plot, it is Ahsoka on trial, but it is really like it's setting up where everything is going. All of the major players are in that room.
100%.
Yeah. And last thing for me that I wanted to ask you about is this arc, the final episode has a different ending than almost every Clone Wars episode. Instead of the circle dissolve or circle wipe, we have a somber fade out. How did that hit you?
It's really effective. And this is not information I knew. I did look up Filoni's video on this. It's pretty funny. He hates the circle out and has always hated it. He said that, it works fine for some episodes, but a lot of times I felt it was so jarring that you have this emotional ending and then that damn circle out where just the music blasts you in the face and you're just like, nah. So he did this one. He knew and then he tricked kind of George. They sat down to watch the on the computer there, the rough cut of the episode, the color, and he just didn't tell him. He just did that. And then George was convinced. All right, you can go ahead and do that here. I love that story.
I think it really, really works. I think the circle works, and I think they make it work a lot of times by having the conversation. And like it starts is such a shout out to the movies, and a lot of times like there's that pretty early arc where they're kind of unnaturally posed, like for a family portrait at Sears. But then they do a really good job of adjusting it to there's a rough conversation, and people kind of nod their heads and walk away, and they give them a couple beats, and then it comes in.
Yeah, I would agree.
And that would have worked here, but I think the somber fade out really marks it as this is if the spine of the Clone Wars is Ahsoka, many other stories and characters, but the spine is Ahsoka, it's important that this be unique.
Yeah, no, it's one of my favorite moments in Star Wars for a lot of the reasons we're discussing here. What it looks like, the feel, the colors, the sky. Kiner's music, it's done with an orchestra, which normally Clone Wars wasn't for budget reasons more than anything. He went to Prague and did the whole big orchestra, so that's why the music feels bigger. So everything about it needed that, and I like that. All Dave jokes aside, really love that.
Yeah, that tortured string version of the Force theme is so powerful. Really well done. Was there anything ultimately in this arc that you disliked or questioned?
I don't know how you could have, you could have figured out, I don't know, but it's a different episode. It's about the Jedi. It's about Ahsoka. It's about Anakin. A lot of action, a lot of forward moving parts there. So these were smooth episodes. You mentioned it, like, Padme shows up and kind of helps try to save the day. Decidedly, just lack of Padme in this season. It's something we're always tracking, and we love Padme and love, and when she shows up, it means a lot. So we take what we can get. But even going to season 7, I remember they said they added some of that stuff with her because they knew we didn't have a lot for her, and it's just tragic in its own way about Padme, the great character.
Yeah, true. I really agree with that. I'm glad that the beats that she has in this are so powerful. Like, you, the audience, have been, you're, diminished. You're underground. You're in the pipes. You're caught in a rainstorm. You're all of your heroes. You're feeling like, come on, make a better choice. Question things. So then when Padme pops up, it's like,
it's very
relief, sunshine.
Yeah, and I don't have the answer for it. Like, I don't know. Do you cut back to Anakin going to Padme and saying, "Here's what's going on," and she has some thoughts on it, which would have been wonderful thoughts. Would that be too similar to some of the beats that might come up in Revenge of the Sith? But could you start that there? I don't know. I'm not saying this was done wrong, but we just love Padme. We love Padme.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really great thing. I think for me, I love the way that this is constructed to, hold back the Barriss reveal. And I'm sure everybody has kind of different opinions on how much you can guess it's Barriss or not on your first viewing. But I wouldn't have mind going a little deeper on Barriss's collapse. Like, there's the power of her reveal, just shouting in front of, in this court in front of everyone,
right.
Mon Mothma, Mace Windu, Palpatine, everybody shouting, like, and does that one even make Palpatine a little nervous? It's like, a little too close to accurate there, kid.
Yeah.
There is that power, but I wonder if there's a way to have gone just a little bit deeper on, how she, if there was any attempt to rationalize this, right? If she thought that when the violence comes to Coruscant and it's literally at the Jedi's feet, and the Jedi appear to be responsible for this death, then the people will cry out more. Like, did you see that protest and go like, great, this is what I wanted? Did she plan to continue doing this? Or had she just really, broken and was going to keep, lashing out of her own pain and violence? I think there's a little bit, hopefully future storytelling can kind of explore a little bit more of the next beat.
Yeah, with her. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah. And you would you'd want to, not need to, you'd want to if you're going to do more with this character. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's also for me, like, Luminara being a little bit more cold comes in around the edges everywhere, including that Martez arc. Right. Yeah. And I feel like that is a part of the story of, like, Anakin and Ahsoka. Everybody kind of looks at them with a side eye because they're so bonded, But that is maybe one of the things that Anakin and Ahsoka did that was great. And Luminara's mentorship of Barriss is to be critiqued. And, I wonder if there would have been room to put some of that on display of Barriss feeling, the part of her dislike of the Jedi being a lack of connection to Luminara.
Again, these flow so well. I really agree with what you're saying. And hopefully we can get that elsewhere. Maybe that's the monologue we get from Barriss in Ahsoka Chapter 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So not a big criticism. I think these are the kind of things I would have pitched in the writer's room and then would have probably agreed, like, but the episode's more powerful if we don't go into that stuff.
I totally get you there.
Yeah. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to touch on?
I made a note. I did the trivia gallery and I had to do a freeze frame on my computer screen and try to blow it up to confirm it. There's a great canon connection of in the jail cells. It's Poggle, Wat Tambor, and General Lotham.
Really?
Yeah, and it's on the CCTV there, and other, among others. But yeah, I just love that. And then, of course, in Poggle Lesser, that kind of factors in stuff with Catalyst and Krennic and everything, and when he was captured, when he was released, all that kind of stuff. It's I love that little detail.
Oh yeah, it plays in with Watt too. Like, yeah, who's gonna get out of here yet?
Yeah.
In Loathsome.
Yeah, General Loathsome.
Going back to the very beginning. Oh, that's great. Final thing for me is just this is one of those fun episodes or fun arcs to watch when you know it, right? I haven't rewatched it in a while, so I forgot that Barriss walks by and checks out Anakin interviewing Letta early on in the first episode, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And it looks like just a background extra. Like, oh yeah, Barriss. They've got the asset for her. No problem. Yeah, that's pretty great. If you could have a figure or merch of any kind for this arc, who or what do you want?
So I want a figure and I want an art piece. I need the art, and who knows, maybe it's on Etsy or something like that. Someone's done it independently. I need the art hanging on Jakar's wall, which is like the Star Destroyers and like a planet, not the Death Star, but it's a great piece of Star Wars art.
Yeah, no, it is. It's got some Mandalorian influences. It's a little angular for Mandalorian art. Yeah, I'm glad you noted that. That was so cool. Yeah,
if you hang that in your living room, and people who get that, they know Star Wars. That'd be a good litmus test. Jagar's art? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And then I just want a simple figure request here, man. I want the Massive Handler, which is Sergeant Hound, and the Massive Grizzer. Love the design. A friend of mine is a canine handler for law enforcement, and just I love the doggies, and I love Grizzer, and I love the design, that helmet that Sergeant Hound has, which I love that nickname. That someone's like, you're Sergeant Hound. Is that it? Because I have a hound? Yes, yeah, that's why. I love everything about it. So, and all, we always get the wonderful clone collections of figures. They're easy to remold, repaint. Give me that one.
Yeah. And give us Grizzer, right? That's the Massive's name, Grizzer? Yeah, absolutely.
Grizzer.
Just straightforward action figure request. I don't think this has been made, but Bounty Hunter Asajj with the great helmet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a good one, too.
Yeah, and the shoulder pauldron thing with the snaky look. Oh, great. Yeah. And then I need a full, expensive HasLab purchase where you can campaign to get the Jedi Chamber of Judgment.
Oh, you gotta have that. Yeah.
Be the first on your block to judge your Jedi, kids. You can put any Jedi you want in the center there and have all of their peers leer down on them. You've got to come with like heavy lighting, everything for the Chamber of Judgment.
Yeah, I love that.
All right. Well, next up is we can go into season 6, episodes 1 through 4, the inhibitor chip discovery. That sounds more fun than it is. Right. Another important and heavy arc. Looking forward to that. Ken, what should the moral of this episode of our podcast be?
When you are having trouble trusting the ecosystem of the podcast industry, just cling to your podcast and broadcasting values and you'll find your way forward.
Oh, beautiful. Something that we all need to hear. Can you tell people where they can find us?
Absolutely. We're the Force Center podcast feed. We are on Twitter at Force Center Pod, Instagram, and YouTube as well. On April 8th, we'll have our next live Q&A episode with cameras and faces on our YouTube channel. Facebook page is Force Center Podcast. You can get a free audiobook on us by going to audibletrial.com/Force Center. And you can get merch at tpublic.com/user/Force Center and support us directly at patreon.com/Force Center. Podcast available on a lot of different spots, including Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn. Just search and you'll find us. You can follow me at Cadnapsock or go to my website, cadnapsock.com. And Joseph, where can they go find you?
Yeah, you can find me Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is at Joseph Scrimshaw, and you can check out all of my other comedy and life adventures on my website, josephscrimshaw.com. But for now, for myself, for Ken, for Grizzer the Massive, this has been the Clone Wars Report.